Hey guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So it's new cart day. We've got C64 Collection 3, Indie Heroes 3, and we have some brand new Evercade socks. So in this video I'm going to be looking at Indie Heroes Collection 3 and probably have a little look at the socks as well. Okay guys, before we actually look at the carts and play through the games, let's have a look at the socks. It was officially branded Evercade Crew socks, so I guess they're quite large socks. One size fits most. What if you've got huge feet or tiny feet? Yeah, interesting stuff, but they look pretty good quality. Decent enough socks that I guess came free with the carts that I've bought here. So let's open them up and we'll have a look at them. Okay, so they're opened up. Certainly a pretty large sock, got all the cool detail on them, and I'm sure you're wondering, what are they like on? Well, let's have a quick look before we get started with the cart. Okay, so they fit pretty nicely. They probably fit sizes 7 to 11, I'm guessing. They're not the thickest of socks though. They're pretty thin. I'm pretty sure I'll probably tear through these pretty quickly. They'll be holy socks before you know it. But yeah, they look pretty snazzy. Yeah, they're socks. They're pretty cool. Anyway, let's move on to the cart. Okay then, so let's have a look at Indie Heroes Collection 3. It's got 8-bit, 16-bit and native games that run here, which is obviously Dodo. We've got 13 games all in. And we probably played a lot of these as part of Game of the Month through 2023, but there's a few new additions that we haven't actually played yet that we'll have a look at. So we've got Dodo, Thunderpaw, Alien Cat 2 Enhanced Edition, Bone Marrow, Big Too Small, Magic and Legend Time Nights, Doodle World Redrawn, The Little Tales of Alexandria, Orebody Binder's Tale, Bubble Seahorse Adventures, Choo Choo Mimic, Skate Cat and Chibi Monster Brawl. A nice collection of games there. Could this be the best Indie Heroes collection yet? Certainly some really good games on there, but anyway, let's have a look at the manual before we actually play the games. There's the lovely looking cart, pretty cool. There's no extras unfortunately in the box, there's no stickers as per Indie Heroes 1. No posters either, oh well, never mind. So let's have a quick look at the manual before we carry on. And I have to say, I love these indie style games. This is one of the main reasons why I like Evercade, is playing some of these sort of brand new modern retro style games. Absolutely love it. Now not all of them are great, although talking about great, this one is fantastic. From Pixel Games, absolutely brilliant. This is running natively on your devices. Now interestingly, I've heard reports that this game doesn't actually work on Super Pocket very well, which we'll have a quick look at later in the video, and also heard a rumour that it might not actually work on the original Evercade either. But anyway, I'll check it out and we'll look at it before we move on to the VS. And we've got Thunderpaw, which is fantastic, really like that. Alien Cat 2 Enhanced Edition, so this is the SNES version with some extra levels added. I absolutely loved Alien Cat 2, so I'm looking forward to trying the extra levels. Got Bone Marrow. We've got Big Too Small, which I think is fantastic. Could well be my outside bet as one of the best games on this collection. Maybe that's a bit controversial, but I thought it was fantastic. A little puzzle game. So this is Magic and Legend Time Nights, another sort of NES style game. Got Doodle World Redrawn, a sort of extras from the Doodle World game that we had on Indie Heroes Collection 1. Basically you can double jump and some of the levels have been redesigned slightly, but it's more or less the same game. And we've got this one which I haven't played an awful lot of. This is a Game Boy title called The Little Tales of Alexandria. Sounds interesting. We've got Bubble Seahorse Adventures. This was the last Game of the Month that we got back in December, and this was running natively on the Evercade, and I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Really good stuff. And we've got Orebody Binder's Tale, sort of NES, sort of almost a Mega Man style game. We've got the fantastic Choo Choo Mimic from Low Tech Games. Is it as good as Flea and Tapeworm though? I'm not so sure, but still it's a decent enough puzzle game. We've got Skate Cat. This is from Dale Coop and CJ. I think they obviously done the Kubo series as well. So this is SJ Games. Interesting, looking forward to trying that one out. And we've got the 4-player game, Chibi Monster Brawl. This is obviously ideal for the VS as pictured here. So before we get started, let's have a look, see how this actually runs on the Super Pocket and the original handheld. Okay, so it was reported in the community that the Super Pocket was having issues running Dodo, so let's have a quick look at that. So it's something to do with the controls that had issues, so let's sort of run it and see what the problem is. Certainly to do with the controls and how the buttons were actually mapped. So there's potential issues there. Just in case you're buying this for the Super Pocket, they will need updated before they can play properly. Yeah, so immediately the controls are mapped wrong. Like I'm pressing up, down doesn't seem to work, left and right doesn't really do anything. Let's see what selects. Oh, not sure what select is. Okay, it's Y button. See if we can turn the sound up slightly as well. Okay, let's see what happens in games. Now it does look a little bit squashed and small, but let's see. Yeah, so left and right doesn't work on the D-pad. Not doing anything. What's actually mapped? Oh, one of the shoulder buttons is jump. Oh dear. Okay, so yeah, it's basically unplayable. None of the buttons are mapped properly. So unfortunately, this is a no-go. If you want to play this on your Super Pocket, you probably want to avoid that until an update is available. So does Dodo work? Ooh, it actually does. Okay, so this is obviously a rumour that is incorrect. So the game does work fine on the original handheld. It's controlling absolutely fine. Sounds great too, looks fantastic. So if you still have the original handheld and this is how you play your games, it's absolutely fine. I'm not sure about all the games right enough, but I thought I'd just try this one. This one was the most likely not to work. It says cartridge update available, so I would recommend doing this. Obviously I've not played it yet, so I don't have any save states to lose, so you'll be as well updating this. It's obviously there for a reason, to help these be compatible with your devices. These updates definitely make me worry because I've lost a lot of save states. I've probably lost a lot of carts that have stopped working, so it's a little bit annoying. But anyway, I still recommend doing it, but it does have its own issues. At this moment, I'm not going to lose anything, so it should be fine. So it does seem to take a little bit of time to actually load. It certainly took about 5, 6, 7 seconds or something there to load, so it's a little bit slow initially. But it does seem to be fine, so let's go. Insert coin, sounds good, so let's go for it. A quick bash at this. Certainly seems a little bit slow though. It's not starting instantly and it's kind of a stalled right away here. So I'm not entirely sure what's going on. It has actually crashed, I think. Oh no, wait a minute. Nope. Certainly seems a little bit sluggish, so I'm not really sure what's going on there. So there certainly seems to be some issues loading the games. It seems quite slow. Obviously in game it seems fine. Yeah, it's actually playing okay. I just want to try and finish the level and see what happens in between the loading screens. Oh, oops. Ah, I'm kind of a cornered here, aren't I? Okay, this is just a small tip, how not to play. How to play badly. I'm only trying to get to a save screen, see what the loading times are like. Oh, sorry, didn't mean to do that. So, let's see how quickly it loads in the next level. So interestingly, there's a lot of pauses there. That wasn't like that when it was Game of the Month. It was pretty quick and swift, so something's happened that's just taken a little bit of time between levels and starting up the game initially. So that's a little bit concerning. Hopefully there's an update to actually fix that. Anyway guys, let's have a look at these games running on the VS. Okay guys, so this will be a lengthy video, so there'll be chapters in place so you can maybe skip to the game that you want to look at. So first up, we're going to look at Alien Cat 2, which is basically an enhanced version, so to speak, of the Mega Drive version we have on Indie Heroes 1. So this is the SNES version. It's got some extra levels, and apparently it's got some enhanced music and other things as well. Personally, I think the sound is actually worse in this game than it is on the Mega Drive version. The sounds just don't sound the same. It seems a little bit tinny to me, which I don't really like. However, I'm certainly welcoming those extra levels, and as you can probably see in a little second or two, some of those extra levels are tough as heck to learn. So what I've done in this video is I've kept in some lengthy footage, so apologies, some of the footage will be quite long, but it's deliberately like that so that you can maybe understand how to complete some of the early levels so you can make some progress. So games like Alien Cat 2, Big 2 Small, just to help maybe understand how to complete some of the levels to help you make a little bit of progress there. But yeah, I'm totally loving Alien Cat 2 enhanced version. The initial levels are very similar to the first game, but once you get to, I think it's level 5 or 6, the new levels sort of kick in, and it certainly gets a lot more trickier for sure. There was a few levels I just did not have a clue what to do. It took me quite some time to actually figure it out. Personally, I'm enjoying the fact we've got some new levels to try out. I thought this was a fantastic game, but I don't think the sound is much of an improvement. I think it's actually worse, as I said, than the Mega Drive version. But still, more Alien Cat is definitely welcome in my book because I thought it was a fantastic game, and certainly I'm looking forward to playing through this game in full. I think there's about maybe 5-10 levels extra. I'm not sure exactly, but certainly welcome in my book. Okay, next up is Big 2 Small, and I'm a massive fan of this game. I might even think that this is my favourite game on this collection. And I know it's not everyone's cup of tea because it's a puzzle orientated game, but I absolutely love it. I played it for probably a couple of months through the summer last year, and I loved it. It was fantastic. It certainly has you stumped sometimes. There's a few levels you could swear are not possible to actually complete, but I kept thinking about it, I kept coming back to it, I kept plugging away, and eventually completed some levels. I think I did get some tips on itch.io from the actual creator of the game to actually complete some levels, but amazingly addictive. Starts off very simple enough, so you're matching up the animals to the different sort of foodstuffs that you see on the screen. You start off with the elephant, and then you get the mouse and the goat, and you just match them up. So you're moving the animals about the sort of grid, and obviously once you press up, down, they just move in a straight line till they hit an obstacle and they can't go any further. And that's basically it in a nutshell. It does sound very simple, but wow, is this addictive or what? Unbelievable. I thought it was fantastic, and it's surprisingly a lot of fun still to play through again. Even though I completed it back in the summer of 2023, I'm still playing through it again, and I'm still struggling to actually complete the levels, even though I've already completed it. So I'm looking forward to trying it again. I think it's a great little game. Obviously, it's not for everyone, but for me, I think this is one of the best games on this collection for sure. I thought it was brilliant. Okay, next up is Bone Marrow, and the probably best way of describing this is some kind of an RPG puzzle style game-ish. It's a bit like the game called Threes, or I think the other one was 2077, depending which version you played. So you're obviously matching up similar style items in the grid, trying to up your character to take on enemies and survive through the days, nights, that sort of thing. It's kind of hard to explain how this game actually works. And initially it's actually quite interesting and fascinating, but I think the more you play it, I think it does get a little bit samey and a little bit boring. And you probably could complete this game in about maybe 30 minutes, I guess, just going through the motions of day and night, upping your character as you go, combining the different items that you see. And I think through the day or night you can eat, and then you can up your character through the night. I can't remember which way it is, but some of the enemies appear at certain points through the day. You take them out. It's very simple in the early stages. It's not really till later on, maybe after you've played it for a solid 20 minutes, that it actually becomes a bit of a challenge. So hopefully you've done enough in that 20 minutes to sort of get your character upgraded enough to take on those enemies that appear later on. But for me, it's okay. I got a little bit bored. I think it just gets a bit samey. You get a little bit bored. You're really just pushing left and right and up and down on the D-pad. Sometimes it's a bit mindless. You're not really thinking what you're doing. As I said, I just felt I got a little bit bored. It's not a bad game. I just felt it was a wee bit unchallenging and a little bit boring at times. So next title up is Bubble Seahorse Adventures, and this game is also running natively on your Evercade devices, and this was the last game of the month in December last year, and it's a really decent enough game. It does feel a little bit like a Super Mario Light style game. It's one of those ones that won't take you a long time to complete either. It's about maybe 30 minutes. I guess if you're a better player you might finish that quicker, but that's about the rough time it should take to complete. And the idea is you're the seahorse and you're moving through the levels using your bubbles to destroy the enemies. Now don't worry about trying to destroy all the enemies, it's a little bit pointless because they do respawn time and time again. The whole point really of destroying the enemies is maybe to use the bubbles to sort of reach higher platforms. And there's also sort of Elvis-like wigs that you can pick up that gives your seahorse a hit point, so that if you take a bit of damage you won't actually lose a life. I really like this game. It's got a lot of different secret sort of ways you can go through the game, and the whole idea is you're trying to get to the moon. I mean, for some daft reason the seahorse wants to go to the moon, which is totally plausible. But it's still a decent enough game. I thought it was really good fun. It does pack a decent enough challenge, and as I said, it does feel a little bit like a Super Mario style game-ish. You can't really jump on the enemies' heads right enough and take the enemies out that way, but you can obviously use your bubbles to destroy them or send them upwards, which is pretty cool. It's a nice game, a really cool game, and I'm glad we have it, and it's certainly one of the better games on the cart. So next up is Choo Choo Mimic from Low Tech Games. They're obviously the creators of Flea and Tapeworm Disco Puzzle. They were the cover stars of Indie Heroes 1 and 2. Now Choo Choo Mimic is probably not quite as good a game as those two, which is probably why it's not the cover star for Indie Heroes Collection 3. It's not a bad game as such. I just think there's something not quite right about it. I think the controls are too clunky. However, regardless of that, there's still a decent game here, and there's a massive challenge to get through. There's tons of levels. I think there's 99 levels to get through, and you're basically guiding the knight or knights to the mimic chest that you see in the corner. So you're guiding the knight to his doom, and ideally collecting all 3 coins on the way by placing arrows, blocks to stop the character going down holes, and obviously guiding him to his doom. I just think the controls are too clunky to be enjoyable. Sometimes I keep pressing the wrong button and getting a little bit frustrated with myself, and later levels I got to a point where I really did not want to collect all the coins. I just wanted to actually complete the levels, which probably isn't ideal. I think the challenges in the game is probably trying to collect all those coins whilst getting to the exit at the same time. Later levels you get more knights, and they have different characteristics and they move in different directions, but sometimes I got confused at which direction these knights actually move. I felt there's a little bit of inconsistency throughout the game. Maybe that's just me, and I felt that obviously the controls are a bit clunky. It's nowhere near as good as Tapeworm for me, but there's a decent enough puzzle game. There's certainly a good challenge here if you like your puzzle games. I think what didn't help this game was that it got released, I think it was November we got this as Game of the Month, and it got released at a really bad time. There was a lot of really good carts that got released at that point, and I spent more time on them rather than this game. So perhaps I'll play this a lot more now that we have the cart, and I'll maybe think of this game a little bit higher than I do right now. But personally I think it's a good game, just not quite as good as the previous games. Okay, next up it's Chibi Monster Brawl, and this is entirely meant as a 4-player game only. There really is no game here for single players, so if you're buying this game and playing it on your Super Pocket or EXP original handheld, it's pointless. There's no game here. It's meant as a 4-player game on the VS only. Because if you play as a single player game, there's not a lot to do. You're really just trying to create a score. The idea is to collect all the food items, or outscore your opponent by collecting as many food items you see on the screen within a minute. Obviously it's a single screen game. It feels a little bit like a Micro Mages style idea on a single screen, and you're trying to collect the different food items. There's also power-ups where you can try and destroy the other enemies or other players when you're playing the game. But as you see here, I'm playing as a single player game, and it really doesn't work. I'm not really sure why they didn't make the other players computer controlled. That would make a lot of sense, where you'd have some sort of game as a single player, but it's really only meant or entirely intended as a 4-player game only. So this one is meant for your VS and 4 players. That's probably where the fun would be had, because playing it as a single player game, it's totally pointless, it's boring, it's just, there's no point in actually playing it. However, I think if you did play this as a 4-player game, I think it'd be a lot of fun to be had. Now, I'm trying to play this as a 4-player game on my own, but the other characters are not controlled by anyone, they're really just there, and I'm surprised I actually won this game, because the characters do bounce off you, and the idea is just the same. It's a different setting. Collect the food stuff you see on the screen, outscore your opponent within that minute, and that's it. I'm sure there's fun to be had, but for me, I didn't find it. Okay, next up, and it's the cover star game, and quite rightly so. It's Dodo, which is a fantastic arcade style game that was obviously based on those arcade classics back in 1983, as they said here, and it's a fantastic game, but there's a massive issue on the EXP and on the VS. The loading time is horrific. For some reason, this game has went backwards, because this was not the case when we had this game as Game of the Month. I guess the recent update has caused some issues. There's no issues with the game, it's just there's loading times for the game starting, and in between levels it takes forever as well. So you see the game starting here, I thought the game had actually crashed, but it just takes forever to actually start. And in between levels as well, there seems to be a crazy pause where you might think the game has actually crashed. Now thankfully the game plays absolutely fine, so there's no issues with that, but they will have to probably have a fix in place for that. I'm not entirely sure what's happened. Clearly the update they done at Christmas in January has probably offset something that's caused some issues with this game, and it is obviously running natively on Evercade devices, and if you've got a Super Pocket it's completely unplayable because the button mapping is totally all over the place. So again, Blaze have probably ballsed up for some reason, don't know what's happened, and hopefully it will get fixed at some point soon. It's not really stopping the game from playing, thankfully, so there's no issues there. It's just a little bit of a delay playing between levels and starting it. But again, it's a fantastic tale. I love it. It's terrific. Very challenging, pretty tough. There's about, 5 stages all in till you get to the Dodo's lair, and once you complete that you go into some kind of crazy balloon stage, then you repeat it all over again, and if you manage to do that you will unlock the medium setting game, which is probably even harder than this, but crazy addictive game. It's got that one more go mentality that you just have to keep playing, and it's a very good version that we have on Evercade. I just hope they can sort the issues out that somehow has reared their head in this version, because those issues were not there as part of Game of the Month last year, so not sure what's happened. Fingers crossed they get them sorted, because it's a fantastic game. Okay, Doodle World Redrawn. Certainly one of my favouriteest games from Indie Heroes Collection 1, Doodle World. I thought it was brilliant. I'm not really sure we need this game, to be honest, if there's enough changes to make it worthwhile having on the collection. But anyway, we have it here. It's basically, as it says, it's a redrawn. The levels are slightly restyled because you now have a double jump, so there's obviously higher platforms that you can reach using that double jump. Now I'd probably recommend, if you're playing it, to try at least the kids modes first, get used to it, but ideally if you want a decent challenge, stick to normal mode. It's a lot tougher definitely a lot harder. There's more enemies, and certainly the placement makes it really hard to reach some of the platforms. In kids mode, there's probably not a great challenge there, but it's a lot more fun to actually play through. And obviously you can go through these levels, collect all the cranes. There's not really a huge point to collect the cranes, apart from you get an extra life if you go past 100. But apart from that, you just whiz through the levels, jump on the sort of enemy's head, take out the bosses, and then that's it. It's a very short game. I think I completed it in about 20 minutes maybe at most. That's on kids mode. I think if you'd done it in normal mode, it would take you far longer to actually complete. There's no doubt it's a fun game. I really enjoy it. Not entirely sure we needed this version, however. I don't think there's enough difference to warrant it being here. Had we got this first, I might change my opinion, but still, a very good game. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's a few bosses throughout the different stages. Now, this one is horrendous for slowdown, and sometimes it makes it almost impossible to actually complete because it's slowing down so much you're not sure what's happening. Lots of flickering, lots of slowdown. I'm not sure if that was there in the original version. It possibly was. I mean, it's a NES game, you'd certainly always get flickering, but that slowdown is really horrendous, and it almost makes this boss part very unplayable indeed. Not sure if there's anything that can be done about it, but just be aware it is there. It's not really a fault. It probably is part of the game, and it's just how it was designed, and there's nothing that can be done about it, I think. Next game, it's Magic and Legend Time Nights. This is another game from the Retro Room, and it's another one of those games that's utilising the NES Maker platform. We have plenty of those on Evercade, even Choo Choo Mimic is based on that platform as well, but obviously the games vary in quality, and this one probably would be in the lower bracket of quality, I'm afraid. It is pretty basic. Later levels are certainly improved. There's a lot more challenge in the later levels. If you want more challenge, I would certainly recommend sticking to Magic because it's a lot harder. If you go as Legend, it's easier because the projectiles you can fire at a distance to your enemies, whereas the other character Magic, you have to jump on their heads or you have to be in close combat. So the levels vary through time, and obviously you have different costumes on, and you need to take out all the enemies through the different time period. Personally, I would always stick to Legend. It's a much more fun game to play, and obviously there's different enemies. There's a different amount of enemies on each level, and you have to take them out before you can progress. There's bonus levels as well. Utterly pointless though, it makes no sense. There's coins to collect on the levels as well. Utterly pointless again, it makes no sense. The only real goal in the game is to take out every enemy that you see. Personally, I think this game's a bit poor, to be honest. As I said, the later levels have a little bit more challenge to them, and it certainly improves a little bit, but it's a very average to poor game for me. And once you've played it, after that 20 to 30 minutes, I very doubt that you will ever come back to it again. So next game is Orebody, A Binder's Tale. This is a platform game and it's a little bit like a Mega Man Light style sort of run and gun game. Obviously it's nowhere near as good as those games, probably not as hard either, but it still packs a decent enough challenge even in the novice sort of level there, and you can actually duck, but personally I think this game's a little bit poor. I mean, it's probably better than Time Knight's game that we just played, but I got a little bit frustrated. I felt that the character movement is a little bit sticky or unresponsive, and that caused a little bit of frustration throughout the levels. You can obviously upgrade your firepower by shooting that crazy block thing that's flying about, but as soon as you die you will lose that and have to restart all over again, which is a little bit of a pain, but it's okay. I mean, I think some people might enjoy this more than me. Personally, I felt it pretty average. Graphics are quite nice, and there's some nice bosses there. The bosses were certainly very challenging, but for me it's just a little bit average. It's worth playing, but I got frustrated by the unresponsive controls. Okay, next game we have is Skate Cat from the makers of Kubo 3 from Indie Heroes Collection 1. This is a very different game to that though. This is a platforming skating game with the cat as the main character. Very self-explanatory stuff, and it starts off okay. I mean, I think it initially reminded me of the Bart Simpson game that we had on the C64 Amiga back in the day. Can't remember which one it was, but it certainly reminded me like that. But I think the controls themselves, it's a little bit frustrating, a little bit slidey perhaps. Like, I know we're on a skateboard, but I got really frustrated with the game. It was difficult to avoid the poops that you see on the street, difficult to avoid the enemies, and I definitely got more than a little bit frustrated. And even worse, once you get to the sort of sewer level, which is the second stage, the slowdown is absolutely horrific, and practically for me makes the game unplayable, because you're trying to jump to certain spots on platforms and they're slowed down. It makes it impossible to actually reach. I mean, graphically it looks really nice, there's a lot going for this game, but I just found the game extremely frustrating. Not sure if that slowdown is just part of the NES Maker platforming. There's obviously a ton of glitching, there's maybe sometimes too many enemies on screen at once and that causes the slowdown, but it is there and it causes a lot of frustration, and for me this game becomes completely unplayable. So sadly I would avoid this one. So next up, it's the Little Tales of Alexandria, sort of a Game Boy adventure style game. And I say game very, very loosely because there's not much of a game here. You can probably complete this game again in about 20 minutes. And I guess this game is probably made with the Chibi Maker platform, which is fair enough, but it feels very basic and I don't really know what the point of the game is. Now, initially, I guess the whole point of the game, as per the instructions that you probably read there, is that you're just go around. You've moved into a new apartment, and you need to go around the flats, meeting your new neighbours, and discovering different things that are going on. That's it. There's nothing else to do. You can interact with everything you see there almost, and read all the text. But what the point of this game is, I have no clue. There might be some secrets to find, but personally, I found that there's a complete lack of game here, and I didn't enjoy it one bit. And I finished it in about 20 minutes and got to the end and thought, what was that all about? I have no clue. Maybe I missed something, but personally, I don't think I'll come back to this. So last up it's Thunderpot, and this is a massive improvement over the last couple of games. This is a platforming run and gun style game where the idea is to clear all the enemies on each level. You can also collect all the bones on each stage, and I think there's sort of canisters filled with nuclear reaction, whatever it is, and you get some extra points and sort of continues as well for all of that. You don't have to collect the bones, but the main idea of the game is just to clear each stage of all the enemies. An excellent game. You can also upgrade your firepower throughout the game, and there's also boss battles as well, which are really challenging. But I really like this game. It is a lot of fun. There's a good challenge here to be had, and it's definitely one of the better games on this collection. I would totally recommend it. There's no doubt that this is a fantastic game. Now, overall, this cart, it's certainly a mixed bag. There's some really good games here. It's got a few issues, there's no doubt about it. I'm not sure if the slowdown in some of these games are meant to be there, or it's something that's just occurred due to the latest updates. It might well be there as part of the games like Doodle World and Skate Cat, for example. I certainly enjoy Thunderpaw. This is a really decent game. There's a good challenge here, but I reckon you're definitely going to utilise those save states because it gets a little bit frustrating. But it's an excellent game, really decent, high quality stuff. Also enjoyed Alien Cat 2. It's great to have the extra levels there, even though it's probably a little bit of a cheap addition, to be fair. Bone Marrow is okay. Big Too Small is perhaps the best game on the collection, no doubt about it. Probably the best game might be this one, Donut Dodo, no doubt about it. It's fantastic. However, it's got issues, especially on the Super Pocket. It doesn't really work very well. It's got mapping issues, and on the EXP and VS it's got some issues between loading screens, but it does play absolutely fine. Doodle World is one of those ones you don't really need. Time Nights, probably not. The Little Tales of Alexandria, not really a game. Orebody is okay. Bubble Seahorse Adventures is good. Choo Choo Mimic is good. Skate Cat and Chibi, probably not. Anyway guys, thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Catch you again in the next one. Bye for now.